Okay, people, January 30th, 2016, 10:37 in the morning. As you can see what the temperature is in the shelter. It's not outside. There is a wind. I can feel it. So it's below 40, people. And it's still raining. And this is what I'm going out in right now. I never got around to spraying that. So I really have to do that today. Because the cats are coming in with it on the bottom of their feet. Like, I'm so fucking choked. Because in that corner over there, if you remember, when that green thing was over there, the raccoons were shitting on it. And even though I cleaned it off and then I had to spray it down, the point is that raccoon shit got up and behind that bin, fell down in between the cracks, and when I went in there and I gutted it, there's Charlie the bear. When I went in there and gutted it, obviously I came into contact with something. And I swear there's a different kind of worm in my yard. Same thing over there and behind in there, because they're shitting over there behind the tree, right? So I pulled out a whole bunch of the wood. I got all the wood out of there, right? Because again, it was nicely stacked up, because that's the way the guys like it. They like it in fucking rows, you know, with everything in line in terms of height, you know, this height and that height and that height, so that when they come and they build, they go and they take what they need. Because most of this wood, people, I'm telling you, I bought the 4x4s brand new because I wanted a strong base for the greenhouse. I mean, that's pretty much a given, right? But outside of that, everything else is recycled wood. Seriously. Oh, and I bought some new, for Jerry, I bought some new 2x4s when he did the roof. Jerry had new 2x4s when he did the roof, for the most part. But when he did the frame, because Jerry is the one who kind of put the frame mostly together, and he's the one who did the roof, right? He got all the wood from the yard, right? But all this other stuff, like this board right there, do you see that 2x4 there? Is probably a recycled piece of wood from something from somewhere. Same thing with that one right there. Okay. So, and for me, when I make these boxes, whether it's a cold frame or just a basic planting box, right? Because, you know, again, landfill is something different than dirt, people. Right? Or I use it for trim. I use the wood that I have in the yard. Right? Anyway, I'm coming outside here in a minute. Okay, January 30th, 2016, 11:02. I'm going to take this thermostat. I'm going to put it out right in the freaking rain. Where is it? There it is. And then we're going to go out to the corner I was working in, but I'm going to cover up this camera. And then when we get out there, I'll show you what I did. Hold on. Okay. I'm in here. Last time Sook was here, the raccoons were shitting in there. I try and clear it out as much as I could, but then, as you can see, people, oh, there's Lady. Was it these cats following me? Anyway, it's right in here. I just did that. I just turned it upside down, so when Sook comes, I'm gonna say, what are you gonna do about that, Sook? I'm sick and tired of these fucking raccoons shitting all over my yard. Spot to spot. They're bringing in hookworm and God knows what. So I'm going to work a little bit in here today, people. This Mr. Lace's pen, I owned him for 17 months before the city decided that they wanted him. So this has been here for 2 years. Home Depot at its best. So that's composting, right? I've already started to put it in some compost bins. And I'll just continue raking up in here a little bit. As you can see, I've had lots of wood here before in the past. Right? There's the rope that used to tie it up. You can see. Right? But none of that matters. This used to be full of wood, all nicely lined up. And then when I would hire guys, they'd come in, they'd just pick what they needed. Right? So I'm at the tail end of it. There's some nice pallets for something that I might need in the near future in terms of landings. You know, I might even use it as a subfloor. That might be the beginning of a subfloor for in there if I really do turn this into a cat house. So I'll just rake up in here a little bit, tidy it up a bit more, do a little bit in there, and then I'm going to go to that other corner over there. That's styrofoam. Styrofoam is good for insulation for greenhouses and that kind of thing, right? So obviously I want to keep that. I can hear it's styrofoam. So I'll just pull that out and rake it up, and then I'll go on to the side of the house there where that big pile is, where that guy put all that stuff, and I'm just going to bring some of it in here. And that's the chore for the day, right? Oh, all these cats, man. Look at this. Mickey! 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 Mickey the gardener cat! She follows me everywhere. She knows, and there's Sparky. Andre really wants me to keep Sparky. She needs to get spayed, though, and I have no money before she starts having kittens. But he really wants me to keep Sparky. Because he named her. That was the first animal he's ever named, and he really loves her. So I have to keep Sparky. Obviously, Mickey, right? Mickey! Mickey the gardener cat! You just follow me around everywhere I go. She sees me putting my boots on, and she just gets ready, and as soon as she sees me dash out the door, people, she's out with me. Okay, hold on. Okay, people, I'm doing this with one hand under the tree, as you can see. My glove is dirty. So what I've done for my friend in Texas, do you see that? That's morning glory roots, man. It's already starting. Came in from in here. Somebody's home next door. Anyway, I pulled out whatever was in here, and then I layered this stuff with some really, really nice dirt. You can see. Because we're just going to make a little compost pile. Right? Here's the rest of this stuff. And then we got this here. This will work. Just kind of showing you here what I'm doing. I don't need those for firewood. It will put some nutrients into the ground. The best thing for nutrients in the ground is wood. Except for pine. Pine kills things. I think it's pine. Or is it cedar? Cedar shavings. You don't want that. There's a little broken up clay pot in there. Put some clay into it. And you see what I'm doing, people? I'm making a nice natural habitat. This is going to be dirt in a year from now. It's going to be really nice dirt too. And then I'm going to take some more dirt as I'm doing whatever. Take out the garbage. That's plastic. And then, because this is a pine tree, the natives say pine trees and pine needles have medicinal purposes. So, since I have some natural pine needles here, we're just going to push that all into there. And that's going to give it more nutrients. I'll come later when I'll spray it down after. Alright. And here's some more. See? What a nice compost pile this one's going to be. Just push that into that pile. And I'm going to come back and do that better. Spread it around. Mix it in there. Oh, I thought that was a morning glory root. Only in this area can I do, because over there I gotta dig up. Sorry. I gotta dig up for those down roots. I tried to get as many as I could in there. I don't have a lot of time to be fooling around in the fucking rain, right? Found some more wood to wash. Let me take off this glove. Sorry. And, yeah. So after that, to be honest with you, I feel like a fucking criminal. Like I'm hiding something really bad here. Away from Souk. You know, I feel like I'm trying to hide something, right? You shouldn't feel like that in your own fucking yard. This bag here, it's got cedar shavings in it when I had the Mr. Lace and the birds. Only cedar shavings isn't good for animals, but it doesn't rot, people. Cedar shavings doesn't rot, trust me. It takes a very long time for it to rot. I'll open up this bag later and I'm going to show you what's inside of it, and it will be wet cedar shavings that's been sitting there for a couple of years. And the reason I keep it is because it's good weed control. And I use it as an antiseptic in the yard, especially when I was doing Mr. Lace's pen. I'd put a bit in there and I'd sprinkle along the sides, right? But I wouldn't give it as bedding, and I wouldn't put too much in as a flooring. But hold on, be right back. There's that morning glory root. Okay, so I am done. For this man to sit up there and suggest that I have never done this, I built this, people. I built that with my son. I started building Mr. Lace's pen on Christmas Eve of 2013. Okay, here's that cedar shavings. Do you see? Doesn't rot. But it's good for either a disinfectant or to put someplace where you don't want too many plants growing. Right? You want to kill them off. Anyway, I'll work in there a little bit tomorrow, maybe start on that other pile over there. But for this guy, like, this is the old rope that used to have the boards all lined up in here as everybody was working, you know? Like, he treats me like I'm a freaking idiot. You know? And if you notice, I'm quite far back. Okay, I'm gonna go stand over here. You can see over there. I'm gonna come stand over here. It's nice and wide and open. Do you see what's going on? Like, I don't like that shit, man. I like this to be a little bit bumped up in here. I don't want fucking raccoons. Leave it like this, the raccoons will start shitting for sure. So I'm gonna put some more stuff in here. The raccoon shit's underneath that. Right? You know? Anyway, I'm going inside. I'm freezing. My feet like got a river inside the boot. Oh, wait. Let's go through this mud pit. Someone just said on one of my videos, I need to fucking move from this shit. Like, get away from it already. I'm so sick and tired of it. Like, so fucking sick and tired of it. But you know what, people? I can't move. I couldn't afford to move when John was living with me, and it's even worse now. It's even worse now. First of all, there's nowhere to go. See what happens? I just gave it a quick spray. You go out in the mud and look what happens. It's not even a minute. Oh, hold on. Okay, so it's 2:30. Right? I got out there at 11. Hold on a minute. Oh, I'm very cold right now, people. I have been dealing with this mud ever since I moved in. I couldn't move out after I moved in. Because what happened was, before I moved into this place, after I left that apartment, I ended up in a fourplex that had the place bugged. They were bugging it. The landlords were bugging the place, people. And they were jacking into my hydro, where parts of my house wouldn't work for 3 weeks at a time. And then all of a sudden it would go on for a week. Will you stop it? Right? And then, what do you call it? I almost got electrocuted. So I called the city, I said, what am I supposed to do? And they said, well, pay $65, right? And we'll come in and inspect your suite for you. Because I almost got electrocuted, people. And with all the hydro problems, like I said, parts of the house would just blink out for like 3-4 weeks. And then it would come on, all of a sudden, John be laying there. It was up where John used to be with his bedroom, so we'd have to run an extension cord. And we'd talk, tell the landlord, ooh. Anyway, long story short, it was a grow up. I lived there for a year. They had a big ass porch. I painted it for them while I lived there. I painted their foyer, which was very large and very high. Planted a beautiful garden. The place wasn't filthy when I moved in, but it wasn't exactly clean. There was quite a bit of garbage. So when I moved in, I kind of had to remove some of it. Anyway, long story short, after living there after a year, because they kicked us out, because they were choked that the city came in, because once the city came in and started inspecting the wiring in my suite and just the type of piping that they had, I think they figured out very quickly that there was a grow up on the property. And then, of course, they wanted to see more. And next thing you know, you see the landlord's crazy uncle that was a heroin addict, that was an electrician, taking out the grow up in the middle of the night before the city would show up to do their inspection in some moldy shed. So, it didn't matter if I was painting or trying to do house repairs in terms of painting. I did a lot of painting because it was crazy the way they had their paint, right? And it had paint, so I was painting. Not only was I painting this big-ass porch in the back, I have pictures of what was painted, but also the foyer, and as soon as you walk in, which would be almost to the equivalent of a bedroom, and then the stairway up, which had a really really high ceiling. They didn't care about that, though, right? So they basically forced me out of there, and that's how I ended up in this place. And I looked at several houses before I found this place. But the thing about this place, though, is... Andre, quiet, please. When we got here, it was Joan, John, and myself. I brought Joan and John and myself, right? Joan only because, it made her feel part of the process, right? Uh-huh. Don't distract me, please, Andre. And this landlord had done the same thing that John and I's landlord that were in a house for... No, you're not doing that today. We were in the house before I got, cut off of welfare in 2003. We were in a house for 7 years with Wally. He was Punjabi. He was a Punjabi landlord, but he was a very good landlord. He actually tried to take my nonprofit information to the temple that he went to. And he took me right into the room where the men are, in their board director office. But they blew off Wally. They blew him off. So never got no help there. Andre, stop it. I mean it. So anyway, this landlord, Wally, when I first came across him, right, he said, John and I, we were coming in from New Westminster, and he said, I said, oh, it's a cute little house, right? I want to go look at a couple more. And he said, no, you either take it now, or I can't guarantee that it will be here when you get back. And because I'd already looked at a few houses with John, and that was one of the better houses that we had looked at. This is when we first moved over from Victoria. We ended up in New Westminster for a few months in a really bad house. It was bad. Did a lot of gutting and painting. I painted the cement, the basement, but after a while, the landlord just wanted me to go up there and start picking out freaking, what is that called? Insulation, that pink insulation from the roof, because there was a roof leaking in from the sunroom. I said to John, well, that's enough. You know, I think we just need to get out of this place. And plus the floors were crooked. And so, you know, we weren't really losing anything. So when we came across Wally's house, and Wally said, well, take it or leave it now, because I've got somebody else that wants to come look at it after you, and I can't guarantee that they're not going to want it. We took it. And it wasn't so bad. There was a couple times I had to have a little hissy fit with Wally, you know. But then Wally would come, and next thing you know it, he'd build a brand new porch. And change the countertops for me. Or do the carpet. Because I lived there for 7 years, people, right? Change the vinyl. He always cut the grass. Always. And he'd spray for weeds. Him and his sons always cut the grass. I never had to deal with the grass, ever. And he basically took care of the weeds. And you know what? That may be why he had an aneurysm and became an infant at a very early age. Because he used to use the spray to kill the buttercup. Because he used to always go out and spray, try and kill them off. That was his thing, right? And he owned a couple of houses. He owned like 3, I think. That could be very well why he suffered a brain aneurysm, and his wife is looking after him now. Leave me alone, please. Okay? Let me just finish doing what I'm doing.
Okay.
But he was the best, one of the best landlords, and we haven't really had that many good landlords, right? But Wally was the best, actually, really, when you think about it. He was the best landlord that we ever had. So anyway, when we got kicked out of Nav Priest's place for having the city come in to find out why I almost got electrocuted and why the lights were going out for 3 weeks at a time in certain parts of the house. And then once they got their foot in the door, next thing you know it, we had the hydro cut off the pole there for like 12 days in October. This was like a month and a half before I had to be finally, because they gave me an eviction notice, right? So I had a small window. I didn't have too many days to find a house. And we had already looked at like 10 or 14 houses, right? And not every house that you put your application in are you going to get it, right? So there was a couple of houses that, you know, we liked. I put the application in, but it's probably better that it didn't go through because it was way off in the boonies somewhere, which would have been harder for my son. So along came this place near the tail end of, you know, we're getting close to December here, you know. This was in November when I rented this place. So I didn't have too many days left. And the landlord for this house said the same thing. Take it now or leave it. The only problem is I didn't see it during the day. We came in the evening, so it was dark. So I never got to see the yard. And it was in November. So nothing is very much growing in November in terms of weeds. And because our first experience with Wally was a good experience, and they had done some major house upgrades in terms of, you know, better windows, a new furnace, hardwood floors. Not that I don't like these floors, and I don't like this cremate freaking tile either. I would prefer vinyl. I really would. And I would prefer carpet. But it's probably better that there's no, you know, carpet down the hall because of the mud that's in this house. It's just pathetic, right? That comes from outside. So, you know, I basically got hoodwinked into this yard. And then once we moved here, you know, it cost money, right? I had already moved a year prior, so that was a big hit. Plus, I was paying out anywhere between $1,200 to $1,500 for that shanty shack with the fourplex, right? Because at one point I was helping my daughter with the little basement part there, right? The woman wanted $1,750, but I think we settled at $1,550 for a couple of months. So, you know, they made good money while I was living there for that 1 year as I painted for them for free because I didn't want to move. I was tired already by that point. But they forced us out, and then I kind of fell into this spot. And then once spring hit, that was it. I learned what morning glory was all about. I didn't know. I didn't know until I got out there and the shit got out of control. I started growing 4 inches a night with 1,000 roots in the yard. So you multiply that by 1,000, 4 inches a night. That's 4,000 inches a night. Traveling through my yard. The dirt used to move, people. I'd get up in the morning and I could see that it had moved. I always wondered if something was digging like under the ground, like you know how they make those underground bunkers, the government and that kind of thing. That's how much the ground moved. But it was just the morning glory roots traveling at night, right? And in those days, there were 6 people that were depending on me. My daughter didn't move in right away. She tried it on her own with her boyfriend, but she ended up getting pregnant. So I chase her down, try and get her off the street and off the drugs and everything, right? Got her stabled out when she was about 2 months pregnant. And then she ended up moving in. Eventually she moved in. And when she moved in, I ended up renting a room to a homeless person. We were doing program development, you know, in terms of a recovery house, that kind of thing. So I had an extra room, even with my daughter at the time living here. So I had my daughter living here. I had rented out that room to that young man that thanked me for giving him the opportunity to be off the streets and to be out of jail for the longest time that he could ever remember in terms of being out of jail. I had my dad's wife, who is very needy and sickly and demanding and conniving and just very spiteful and argumentative and, you know, just, it was awful. And then John, and then Tisha, and then Shimei, Mark Hain, and myself. That's 8. And then Austin wanted to move in. Sierra's boyfriend. That's Andre's dad. So at one point, I had 9 people going through this house, with everybody with their emotional freaking baggage, as I'm trying to deal with this yard. Because I couldn't afford to pack us up and move us again. Because every time you move, you lose money. When we left Wally's house in 2003, Uncle John and I, because every now and then I take my car off the road. The car was off the road, but down about 1.5 blocks, 2 blocks away, right? Somebody had cut down a tree. And Uncle John and I and my sons, my sons, right? Mostly Uncle John and I, and my sons helped too, I think. They were younger though, right? We took shopping carts. And we loaded up those buggies with that wood for firewood. And we pushed it all back home, go back, get more, go back and get more, until we had it all. And we stacked it all up underneath the porch that Wally had built nice for me, because the one that he had was falling apart. And then he says, you pay half, I pay half. And I'm like, are you fucking crazy? That's your porch, you fix it. I don't know, he liked it, right? He liked it when he could get me mad sometimes. Next thing you know it, he'd show up with his wife, right? And I'd get a brand new porch, like brand spanking new. Nicely painted, nicely insulated. It was wonderful. Same thing when it came time to do the vinyl. Not only did he do the vinyl, but he did the counters, the kitchen counters. And then when the washing machine was breaking, because, you know, he did the used machine, finally, I said, Wally, like, the machine, okay, well, next thing you know, he came with two brand new machines, the washer and the dryer. So life was easier there. Plus, he cut the grass. And he helped with the weeds, which probably fucking put him in the state that he's in, which is unfortunate. But that's a sign. Don't be using that Roundup crap, because it does something to you, because he used to spray the weeds after he'd cut the grass, right? To try and control the buttercup, especially in one area in the yard. So anyway, you know, we were gathering wood for the fireplace. You know, I had a nice playground that I spent like almost $3,000. I built it, basically. The only thing that I couldn't do was put on the peak on the roof. Everything else I built, right? And because I dealt to spring cleanup, I'd go pick up pieces of wood. You know, I'd pick up, you know, I mean, I had to buy from Home Depot too, right? Because I bought gravel. I bought a truckload of gravel, and and lawn ties and all that other stuff. And I bought a big swing set, and you know, but I got cut off welfare, and I couldn't afford the answer the phone. I couldn't afford the expenses in terms of just the overall general expenses. I got scared. Hold on a minute. Hold on. So yeah, you know, 2003, January, didn't get a welfare check, 5 dependent kids, had already been working on the nonprofit for almost 4 years, 3 years, you know, getting into the legal paperwork of it, right? John couldn't get credit. He went bankrupt because his wife bankrupted him twice, people. Only the first time she bankrupted him because he got hit by a car, he paid off all the bills. And then she quickly started racking them up again for a place that never moved. Like I said, the only thing that moved was the dust accumulating on dust, with cat urine accumulating on cat urine, accumulating on cat urine on the carpet. Outside of that, what the fuck she was spending the money on, John couldn't figure it out. So he ended up going bankrupt, so I had to take on the debt load of a house. When you live in a house, there's expenses, tools, and all that other crap. Because I was doing gardening, and I was, you know, I built the playhouse and, you know, the playground, and, you know, it was a fort. It was like 10 feet high. It was like 4 or 5 feet up off the ground, and then it was the platform. Then it was like a little house, and then it had, you know what I mean? By the time you were done, it was like 15 feet fucking high with the peak on it. And then a big ass swing set. Loaded that up on my car too, people. Because in those days you can buy them prefabbed cut at Home Depot. So I had like 2 swings, I had the monkey bar, and then I had the little ramp that they could climb on both sides. And then the big load of truck, of gravel. Because we were planning on staying there for a while, right? But when I got cut off welfare, that was it. I got scared. Because I was already taking on a debt load. Right? Making a home. And like I said, a couple months prior to that, you know, we were walking down the road with shopping carts, picking up firewood. And, you know, the big round cut from a tree, right? And when we left, I ended up taking some of that with me to the apartment. And I used it as decoration on my porch, but the majority of it got obviously left behind. So this situation is kind of like the same, you know, as the city is trying to get me evicted. You know, like somebody's got like a real fucking hard on, eh? Like seriously, because the shit that's been going on for the last few years, it's been out of control, people. It like literally, my daughter's gone. Like her life is destroyed, completely destroyed. She sat here, I've said it before, with Andre in her arms the week when we first went to go see those social workers, as they sat there and accused her of doing drugs. And they said, well, here's your choice. You either take this program, it's a really good program, we're going to set you up with the program, take the baby with you, or you can leave the baby with your mom. But it's better if you take the baby with you, you know, so that you can prevent a relapse, right? Because they've been wanting to get her out of the house ever since the baby was born. Isolate her away from the protection of her family. And if that would have happened when he was a baby born, like teeny weeny, she wouldn't have made it. At least with me, she made it until he was 28 months old. But they fucking cornered her, right? They cornered her. And she sat there on the ground. I can visualize it right now. And she said, Mom, she says, I'm really scared. You know, and I had just bought her a brand new bed, right? And she was getting the bigger room. No, she wasn't getting the bigger room, but she was getting a better bed. How was that working in 2012, 13? Joan must have been already, maybe Joan had already gone, because this was December of, yeah, because Joan must have been gone, and I must have had to been bringing John up, because I couldn't leave him in the basement, and Sierra was going to get the bigger room with a brand new bed that I had already bought. It was on credit, but still, I got her a brand new bed. She was going to get the bigger room with Andre. And then all of a sudden, she finds out that she has to go to this program, that the social worker is going to sign her up for it. But 5 days later, from that conversation, and she was ready to go, she couldn't understand it, right? Because she wasn't doing drugs. No, she was running around, but she wasn't like doing drugs. Her boyfriend was bugging her. Well, ex-boyfriend, right, was bugging her. So, but the next thing you know it, because she didn't come home, they said, well, if she doesn't come home, because that was my biggest thing. She was going out, right? And she was leaving us with Andre all the time. Too much. It was getting to be too much. So whether it was too much for her to parent, or because Joan had stressed her out so much in the basement, and, you know, then, you know, dealing with Austin, and, you know, I'm sure that once she would have gotten into that bigger room with her brand new bed, and Joan, like I said, Joan was already gone into the long-term care facility instead of going in and out of the hospital with feeding tubes, oxygen tanks, you know, smacking her cane against the wall, trying to pit everybody against everybody, you know, accusing me of this and accusing me of that, and picking fights with Sierra, you know, putting John on a spot where he had to choose. And, you know, it just got so fucking stupid that, you know, Sierra didn't want to be around that. But I'm sure that once she would have gotten into that bigger room, and with her brand new bed, right, and Austin now finally out of the house, she would have settled down. Because she loved being a mom. She loved Andre. But no, social worker said, well, if she doesn't come home, you better let us know. So they called me up and said something. I said, well, I don't know. She didn't come home. Next thing you know it, well, you better kick her out, because if you don't kick her out, that's it. We're taking away the baby. I said, are you crazy? Pardon me, excuse me, what did you just say? So my daughter phoned, and they told her that too. And she said, I just won't come home, because she didn't want Andre going into foster care. But that was a big setup too, because within a month, he was gone. But by that time, my daughter was a junkie, because she got disconnected from her methadone. And it's been funky ever since. Totally funky ever since. And somebody said that, you know, there's this shit going on in our society with people with money that just want to accumulate more wealth and more assets for themselves. And, you know, they like to hurt families. They like to hurt children. You know, they're into those snuff movies and all that. They like to prostitute little girls like my daughter, because it just gives them that fucking pleasure that they can't find anywhere else in this world. And she feels that I might be caught up in that cycle, and that's what I'm being targeted and my family's being targeted for. Whether there's truth to that matter, I don't know. It kind of feels like that, though. It kind of looks like that when you look at the pattern. And, you know, this suit guy coming in acting like I've never done anything because it's all in the past. It doesn't matter if the landlord ripped up the fucking, you know, front yard. You just didn't fix it up fast enough to my liking. And as for the behind the fence there, you know, well, gee, I guess it looked like that for the last 6 years, right, people? It's always looked like that, eh? You don't want to take no responsibility for their nasty ass raccoons that shit and knock things down, shitting all over the place, right? Climbing up things, climbing down things, leaving their paw prints everywhere. And they literally knock things down. You've seen that they pull, you know, they put their hands in, they're pulling stuff out, and they're pissing everywhere, you know, like it's stupid. This is harassment. This is total harassment. Why? Because I went on some chat site in Oregon talking about how the mayor is a nasty bitch? Because she lets people like my daughter die out on the streets and then wants to get up on television and say the riffraff, the petty criminals, the undesirables deserve what they get? Because I'm the mayor and I'm protecting the public? Because as soon as I called her nasty, and I'm kind of pointing out in the last little while what's been going on with my daughter, how she just up and disappeared. Being sexually abused, tortured. And the mayor doesn't give a jack shit about it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I can take you out there and find 2,000 more just like my daughter. And that doesn't include the men. With needles all over the place. I took my grandson to the corner store over here and there's a fucking needle right there. On the cement. On the side of the store as you're walking. You know? Walk over there and you'll find condoms. Go over there and you'll find condoms. You know why they cut down the grass everywhere, people? I'll tell you why all the grass has to be cut in Surrey now. It's not because they're trying to bring up the property values. It's because they were finding dead bodies in the grass, people. 2 dead bodies over there a couple of years ago. Covered up with brush. In the field that's like 100 feet away from me. Dead bodies, women over there. Dead bodies of women over there. Those ones over there were men. That's why they cut the grass now. Because if they leave the grass up, it's easy for these serial murderers in this community just to grab a girl off the street, do what they want, and then murder them. Well, people like my family just get played and toyed with, right? And harassed and threatened and intimidated. And it's a joke. Anyway, I'm sitting here all muddy again, soaking wet, freezing. If I was to squeeze this, all the water would come out. So I'm just going to upload this as is. This is what, day 6?